Saints defensive end Cameron Jordan in a recent article revealed the truth of what was going on behind the scenes with the former Saints coaching staff under Dennis Allen. And one of the shocking things he said was the lack of detail and care that former defensive line coach Todd Grantham had for him and just the young players in their development in general. On top of that, there was also some other interesting things in this article, like him nearly requesting a trade and so much more. I'm not going to read the whole article. You guys can go check that out in the description. I'm just going to put the main takeaways I had from this article, put the snippets, and then if you want to check out the full thing, I'll link it in the description. And something else that you can do is subscribe to my channel. We're on the road to 10K and more in 2025. It takes 5 seconds. It's free. You're already here and it helps the channel out a lot. And 68% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed. So you could be watching these videos and not even realize that you're not subscribed. So double check, make sure that you are. And with that being said, let's see what Cam Jordan had to say about the former Saints coaching staff. The future of Saints defensive end Cameron Jordan is unknown right now, but he has already confirmed that he will not be retiring in 2025. I mean, just going through his Twitter that you can see that he is playing this year. Someone said, "I can't wait for you to retire," after he tweeted something, and then he said, "But hear me out, year 15 is happening, 125 sacks is on the way." He is 3.5 away from that goal, and he will be playing this year. In addition to this tweet, though, he also had this response to someone asking if he was retiring. He said, "Nah." And the original tweet was, "Never thought we'd be here. Blessed to be black and gold through and through. We must aspire for more, starting with a healthy team. Playing like every down is the last. The determination is a football player's reality, as there's not always next year for everyone." So he confirms that he will be playing football in 2025, but this tweet also leaves it up to be like he doesn't know if it will be with the Saints or not. And that is the question when it comes to Cameron Jordan. Where will he be playing football in 2025? The Saints have a bad cap situation. They have to eventually get younger as a team in general and not rely on 36-year-old Cameron Jordan and 36-year-old Demario Davis to be their best players. At some point, they have to start taking some of these cap hits, and Cameron Jordan may be one of those guys. And it sucks because I know a lot of people love Cam Jordan, one of the best Saints ever to do it. He's probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame. I'm assuming he will. He's a fan favorite, of course, so moving on from him would be just really tough in general. Not only that though, I mean, the past few seasons we've seen Cameron Jordan struggle, but after Dennis Allen was fired, he had a really strong finish to the second half of the season. He looked revived, re-energized, and it looked like he was happy playing football again. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he started getting better once Dennis Allen was fired. And in this recent article, Cameron Jordan does kind of explain and does basically say that a lot of his lack of production was because of the coaching and their way of approaching game planning. Not only that, but there's also some other wild behind the scene looks at what was happening for Cameron Jordan in 2024. Again, I'm not going to be reading the whole article, just the main takeaways. And shout out to Greg Bishop. He's the one that put this article together. Now, the first thing I want to mention and talk about is the fact that Cameron Jordan was close to requesting a trade this season. His father, Steve Jordan, who played for the Minnesota Vikings as a tight end, shakes his head as if exiting a trance. Steve would love for Cam to play an entire NFL career the same way he did, but Cam also saw his playing time dwindle this season before an uptick after head coach Dennis Allen was fired. In early November, Cam played better, more like his usual self from that point forward. Steve shakes his head again, then says he told his son Cameron Jordan to seek a trade earlier this season. So Cameron Jordan got advice from his dad saying that he should request a trade off the Saints because of the playing time, and I'm assuming because the Saints were losing. Cam wants to win a Super Bowl, and at one point Cameron Jordan had played 10 snaps in a game. I believe that was the Panthers game, so there was obviously frustrations there. And if you're Cam Jordan, you're frustrated. If you're related to Cam Jordan, you're frustrated. And in general, you can't blame them for wanting Cameron Jordan or his family to want him to request a trade. And then the reporter who put up this article, Sports Illustrated, asked him about what he was feeling in the moment after that Panthers game when he was walking to the locker room, very upset. What do you remember about that moment? And Cameron Jordan said, at the end, I was like, man, this has to end this way. I was about to, force my way out of there. Really, I was contemplating that for the first time ever, basically requesting a trade. Hendrickson, who is his agent, confirms this in all other accounts, but notes that Cameron Jordan's contract, $26 million for last season and next season, but also guaranteed against anything except injury, complicated the landscape for potential suitors. Your father, Steve Jordan, as we already mentioned earlier in the article, mentioned the seek trade advice he gave you. Cameron Jordan responded, there's always available options. Did I find them viable? The answer is no, because his agent Hendrickson confirmed this too, adding that they spoke that Jordan wanted to be traded and that Hendrickson then laid out the complications in relation to being shipped to a contender, each of whom didn't have a ton of spare cash lying around for a scenario like this. So Cameron Jordan confirms that he wanted to be traded from the Saints if there was going to be a way, but he talked to his agent. There really wasn't a way for him to be traded with his contract situation. And for the Saints, it probably wouldn't have done them any good because of the cap hits. They wouldn't really get anything valuable in return for Cameron Jordan. But it's crazy that a guy like Cam, who's always talking about being a Saint for life, always positive, always looking as a half glass kind of full kind of guy, wanted to be traded because that's how bad this situation was. But honestly, I don't blame Cam. If I was him, I'd want to be traded too and go compete for a Super Bowl. And, given what the Saints offseason may hold in the future and what the next head coach may want to do, his option may be a free agent this upcoming offseason. He may go sign with a contender. Who knows what his market will be, but he definitely should be playing football to some degree in 2025. Now, that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. The next thing is the lack of communication in the coaching issues that Cameron Jordan had with the Saints. Throughout the article, it was mentioned that Cameron Jordan was frustrated with the way the Saints approached their defensive line in their system and game planning. He didn't like that they would substitute players out one play, in one play, out one play, in one play, and that it kind of prevented players from getting into the flow of a game. And as we saw, once DA was fired and they changed things up and they let Cameron Jordan and guys get into the flow of a game, they started to get a little bit more pressure. It wasn't that much better, but it was better than it was before. This is a part of the article I found also very interesting. This season can be cleaved neatly into before and after. Before, after. Jordan played a then season high 54% of defensive snaps at Kansas City. His playing time plummeted, lowering every week from week 5 through week 9. He only played 10 defensive snaps against the Carolina Panthers. Going into that game, Jordan says, I was reaching a boiling point because of the lack of communication between him and the coaches and the front office and general manager in general. On top of that, with the assistant coaches. Cameron Jordan continued, all season Jordan had stressed patience while he tried to adapt to a new role. Pass rusher, primarily rushing from the interior. At the end of season press conference, Cameron Jordan says he does not want to be a defensive tackle moving forward and wants to stay outside. He says more than once and for months that his position coach Todd Grantham wasn't focused on teaching players technique, tweaking form over the course of a season, or development in general. I think we all kind of suspected that Todd Grantham was a pretty bad coach, but from a player's perspective, saying what was actually going on, and for him to say that he didn't care about technique or development or form in general is actually insane. Now, the Saints have had a hard time developing defensive ends, drafting the right guys, but maybe this played a role in Isaiah Foskey being really bad the past 2 seasons. Maybe this played a role in Peyton Turner being pretty bad the past few seasons. Maybe it's played a role in the run defense being so bad and Bryan Bresee not being a good run defender. And it's pretty crazy that Bryan Bresee got 7.5 sacks in year 2 and 4.5 sacks as a rookie from defensive tackle. How better could these guys actually be if they had an actual defensive line coach like Byron Young, who did a good job taking over mid-season, had they had him for the whole year? It's just crazy to me to think that players are going through this and not getting communication in return, especially a guy like Cam Jordan, who is a top 5 Saint of all time in my opinion. The article continued, Cameron Jordan expected that with such a drastic changes to his role and playing time, someone on the coaching staff would at minimum update him on its collective thinking. He wanted someone to show him game film that laid bare any step that he might have lost or any clear reason younger defensive linemen were starting over him and playing far more to boot. Eventually, Jordan says he asked specifically for feedback. He received exactly none. No communication between the players and the coaches. Bad coaching staff. Let's not forget Todd Grantham was someone that Dennis Allen hired. He wanted Todd Grantham. He went to go get him. Got rid of Ryan Nielsen, the co-defensive coordinator, defensive line coach from 2022. Really good defensive line coach. And after he left, things went to crap. Coincidence? Maybe not. But Todd Grantham takes over and things get worse. I don't think that's a coincidence. And at the start of the season, this article says, eventually he pointed out directly the conversation that started all the confusion. Todd Grantham told Cam Jordan before the season started that the coach believed he had 3 legitimately started caliber defensive end, meaning Cameron Jordan, Chase Young, and Carl Granderson. And Grantham also said only one factor, on-field play, would dictate who played that much and how. And Cameron Jordan felt that wasn't the case, that he was playing just as well as the other guys, but was continuing to get less and less and less playing time. Further in the article, this shuffling between Cameron Jordan, one play out, one play in, moving around on the defensive line soon became a pattern. Jordan grew more frustrated each week. He went out for each snap of the first defensive series, typically then stayed in for 1 or 2 snaps on the next series, then shuffled in and out, like the burger chain California Fire for the rest of games. You can't catch a flow of balance, Jordan says, but you've played 13 years, you've worked on trying to catch the game flow. This, he says, led him to study more film in order to catch the flow faster. For defensive linemen to get the flow of a game and get improvement and build momentum, they have to be in for more than 1 or 2 snaps. That's basically what Cameron Jordan's trying to say here, and that's why he was having a lack of production this season to start, and probably dating back the past 2 seasons. Jordan's production has gone down because of this rotating in and out thing. And during that Carolina Panthers game where he played 10 snaps, at one point those frustrations from Cameron Jordan bubbled up beyond what he could contain. He approached Todd Grantham on the sideline ready to deliver some choice words. He told Grantham, per Cameron Jordan's recollection, "Hey man, stop throwing me in for 1 play or out for 1 play. I hear you." Then 1 play in, 1 play out, more pushback, more rotating. And Cameron Jordan then said he told Dennis Allen and others he would not speak to Todd Grantham anymore, that all communication needed to come from someone else. He reached his threshold. He reached a threshold of he doesn't know what respect looks like, or he doesn't know how to treat a man as a man. If anything, I'm a warrior. There's ways to go about those things respectfully. So basically, Cameron Jordan in this defensive line coach, and I'm assuming a little bit of Dennis Allen, because the article later on does say that he did recommend to Gail Benson, the owner, that Darren Rizzi should be the interim head coach. There is a lack of communication and frustrations between the coaching staff and Cameron Jordan, mainly because they weren't communicating to Cam and they weren't letting him play, despite other players not being as good as him or performing better than him to that point. This is the last thing I wanted to mention between the coaching staff and Cameron Jordan. Once they fired Dennis Allen on November 4th, they named Darren Rizzi as the interim head coach. Grantham was reassigned that week to a different role, and then he left mid-December to become the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. Brian Young, formerly the team's pass rush coach, took over the defensive line room, and from that point on, the defensive line was a lot better. Pass rushing wise, the run defense still sucked. Young primarily emphasized, Jordan says, fundamentals and technique, unlike Todd Grantham, for the rest of the season. And Cameron Jordan said Young probably should have been his position coach all along, Cameron Jordan said. So very telling stuff that Cameron Jordan is calling out former coaches, that this is a really bad situation, that players are not being developed, top form, taught technique, and it's probably a huge reason why the defensive line has been a huge problem for the team over the last 2 to 3 years. Not only that, but also letting Trey Hendrickson go plays a role in that. This is just a crazy amount of information that this article revealed, and there's more, so make sure you check out the full article. Shout out to Greg Bishop for this article, this really good piece of a lot of information regarding the behind the scenes of Cameron Jordan and the Saints. That's all I got for this video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Let me know down in the comments your biggest takeaways from this, because there's a lot of shocking, crazy stuff in here. So let me know down in the comments. I appreciate it if you made it this far, and I'll catch you next time. Have a good one and enjoy some playoff football. Peace.